in her little office there, which is just amazing. So hopefully we can plug into some of your musical selections you have on vinyl there later.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll have to do that. It is, I mean, it's almost happy hour, so we can make some of this fun, right?
There you go. Well, I think everybody knows who Kroger is. Just a quick, so my name is Brett Gentry. I run the direct sales organization at Gimbal. We are an identity-driven marketing and advertising platform powered by physical world data. And that's all you'll hear about me. Kroger has stood out to me relatively recently in the past couple of years as like really one of the leading in marketing and technology innovation. And for those people on the call who aren't aware of this, like go do a little research. It's crazy. Some of it is I don't expect big grocers to be that savvy, and you really are. How has that forward-thinking approach to technology and innovation helped during COVID? And I tried to avoid COVID, but there's just no avoiding it, at least for my first three questions. So,
Yeah, I think, you've got a 137-year-old Fortune 23 grocery company that owns almost 24 banners in 35 states, right? And that sounds like a bit of a monolith, but actually the interesting part about it is that nobody actually has the data or the customer insights that Kroger has. And I think that is something that allows us, you'll hear us talk a lot about personalization. We try to leverage that as much as possible. And we have our data and insights company in-house called 8451. They sit here in Cincinnati with the Kroger Co., who owns and drives a lot of that use of our data personalization. So it's become really they were formerly known to a lot of marketers as dunnhumby, and it's become a really great relationship turned acquisition turned partnership here at the Kroger Co. So that's really where it starts. You think about the just incredible data and understanding of our customers within the 60 million households and counting that we serve.
it's an enormous amount of scale. You have a lot of people who are very enviable of that, I'm sure.
Sure. Yeah.
When I think about grocery shopping, I think about, the cycle of my life. And when I was a kid, my mom shopped at like one grocery store. She got everything she needed from that one grocery store. And for me and my family, at least up until recently, there's like 5 different stores that make up all the groceries that we get, from Trader Joe's to Ralph's, which is a Kroger brand, to Whole Foods, to specialty meat stores and all those things. It's mind-boggling that we can't just figure out a more consolidated way to do it. How has COVID changed that for people? Has it rebounded? And the last part of that question is, what's a snowflake shopper?
A snowflake shopper. A snowflake is something that you and I have chatted before. It was an interesting little insight that came up in a conversation a little over a year ago within marketing and with our agency, just around at the time we were observing, right? Like you have your Kroger that serves a purpose in your life. You might also visit a butcher down the street. You might get, your toilet paper from a different place. And we actually have seen, one thing that COVID has done widely in our category is the consolidation of trips, right? People are going back to kind of the one-stop shop thing. And we have certainly benefited from that as a food grocery brand, because we do have the assortment that can serve that need. So that's been an interesting thing to go back. But I think, this is where our customer data can come in and actually enhance that experience as you think about, beyond just being able to personalize the experience, the shopping experience via email and the app and our website, and even within some of the store experiences. As you think about in our app, you can have in-store mode to help you navigate the aisles and find exactly what you're looking for, leverage the personalized coupons, that kind of thing. It also helps us to create the seamless digital experience that, we're all, I think, fast forwarded into this year, right? Because of COVID. And so, now you look at not just proximity with our retail footprint, but also the ability to serve, pick up in over 2,200 stores, delivery in over 2,400 stores. And that's reaching, 90% of our customer base. in a really personalized experience kind of way. And then we also have a ship to home, which offers a really great extended aisle beyond just the great food in our stores. Now we're going even beyond that with kind of that new ship marketplace. So, it really is just about creating a better shopping experience, regardless of the modality through which, you're shopping Kroger or one of our many banners.
Right. So in that vein of change since COVID, and I promise I think I only have two more related questions. How have like cart size changed, or the contents in the cart and the frequency of visits?
Yep.
In my household, it's changed a lot. I'm just curious
Yep.
for Kroger, how has that changed?
Yeah, we, if you're reading the news, we had some stakeholders talking about this very thing yesterday. The cart sizes are bigger, the basket is bigger, certainly, and I think with the ebb and flow of the pandemic, you see the stock up trips still continuing to happen. I think an interesting insight from this most recent quarter is people are continuing to, as experiences in the world are shut down because of either restaurant closures or, you're not taking the kids down the street to, the main event or some similar kind of experience related thing like kids sports and that kind of thing, all sort of being paused. People are sort of treating themselves in the kitchen, which is really fun to watch. So in the basket makeup, you see some of that. People are sort of trading up to even in our, you look at like the private label portfolio that Kroger has. We have like Simple Truth, which is this great natural and organic line that just introduced a bunch of new products that people are loving. And that's a great like way to it's a sort of a democratization of natural organic foods, but then you have private selection and hemispheres, and we own Murray's Cheese, which is based in New York, but available in a number of our stores. Like people are trading into some of these other parts of, or other product types, and then I think also you'll see they're buying more and they're buying bigger. Has been probably the biggest change, but I think. I was having a conversation with somebody a couple months ago about this, but whether you like it or not, whether you are a great home chef or a total novice in the kitchen, we've all been sort of forced back into the kitchen, and people are starting to have fun with it. You saw the baking trends start early on, but now I think people are thinking about it like, what do I have to lose? I can take a little more risk in the kitchen. And I think Kroger's been a really great partner to people to help them do that better.
Have you found that, and I'm just really curious about this cart change thing. Have you found that there are certain products that maybe people were once getting at other retailers that now that Kroger stores have to stock up more on or have more variety in because people are really consolidating where they're shopping?
I think we've seen, the need for fresh. Some of the interesting insights early in the pandemic where a lot of people went to what you might consider the center of aisle. They were getting some of those more shelf stable kind of things. Think your canned soups and snacks and that kind of thing. And people are still buying snacks, certainly, just because there's so much more at home food consumption right now. But then you quickly saw the need for fresh, right? And fresh food. And people were seeking that out because you buy all the dried pasta. And I think at some point you're craving, pun intended, some of those fresh elements that we have in our produce and meat and seafood sections, and even just going back to like the cheeses like Murray's cheese and the fresh bakery offerings that we have. I think people were seeking that out. So it was kind of interesting to see people go back to that, and now there's a lot of need for just education on how they know they want the fresh, but how can it plus up some of the things that might still be in your pantry from some of the early stock ups that people have been doing. And a fun thing that we released recently is the Kroger Chef Bot, which is available via Twitter, which is a really great AI tool that our social team built with our agency partner 360i, where you can take a picture of the things that you have in your pantry, and the AI technology will read the products and identify them, whether they are fresh products or canned, private label goods from Kroger or national brands, and it will spit out really great personalized recipes for you to try to make use of what you have. And I think that goes back to like helping people who need some help in the kitchen, or also I think my sort of favorite component of it is it does help with the food waste situation, right? Because if
Sure.
you can, we would love for you to use every single thing in your refrigerator, and anything we can do to help you with that has been great. So if you just take a picture and tweet it to the Kroger Chef Bot on Twitter, the device will spit back some ideas, and also, of course, take you to Kroger's website so that you can buy anything you might need to add to supplement the recipe.
I love that. I hadn't even thought about the waste side of it, but that makes complete sense.
Yeah,
Um,
sustainability and food waste is a well-known big initiative at Kroger. I mean, we just were named to the Dow Jones Sustainability Index for the 8th year in a row. We have our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste platform, as well as a foundation that actually invests in innovation around sustainability and also eliminating hunger. So it's important. So it was nice to have kind of that connection back, even with something like the Chef Bot.
well, that leads me on to one of my questions down the line, but let's talk about that. Like, what does that program look like when you're talking about hunger and you're talking about innovative programs that are really helping beyond just your core consumers, but the people who are maybe outside asking
Yep.
you for money?
Yeah, I think it starts certainly from a purpose-driven place. I mean, if I just as a brand person go back and look at the heritage piece of the Kroger Co., Barney Kroger started Kroger with a little more than $300, which I believe was his life savings at the time, 137 years ago, and opened his first store on Pearl Street in Cincinnati, Ohio. But a big thing for him was one, don't ever sell anything that you wouldn't want for yourself, but also like, how can I make sure that everybody who deserves to have access to food and that kind of thing can get it at a fair price, a competitive price. But also he started adding in other services. He said, let's put a butcher and a baker in the grocery store. So it was sort of like almost the original one-stop shop in a lot of ways.
Right.
And there was also, a fair amount of altruism that he promoted, and I think we kind of took that, and as you think about Kroger's purpose of feeding the human spirit, the Zero Hunger, Zero Waste initiative really fell out of that quite naturally. And I think the main goal there is to create sustainability by eliminating waste as a big grocery chain, but also to help eliminate hunger in the communities that we serve by 2025. And then within that, you have the Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Foundation, which has an innovation fund that, takes applications each year and really great startups that are looking to help with sustainability and hunger initiatives. A great example is a company called Winnow that has an AI tool for chefs that help them measure the food waste in their kitchen to create a sustainable yet, of course, also profitable kitchen system. So, really trying to, it goes back to in the communities that we serve, really trying to help out in innovative ways.
It's amazing. I think most of us on this call, and I don't mean to speak for others, aren't thinking enough about food waste, and it's a huge problem.
It absolutely
Um,
is. I mean, it is a massive food retailer. Like, it's something that's very much top of mind for Kroger, which is great. And we talked this week a little bit, but as a member of the Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Foundation board, I have to plug it because it's something that's a passion point for me as well. I just think it's extremely important.
and I completely agree. Um, like I said before, I really believe that Kroger is at the cutting edge of technology and innovation when it comes to understanding your consumers and reaching out to them and making their lives easier. What cracks in that innovation army that you have did you notice, or have you determined with COVID? Were there any major pivots that you had to make, or do you feel like you guys were pretty in line and ready to take it head on?
We were prepared. And I think, like other major retailers, making fast pivots in supply chain to make sure that we had what people needed when they needed it, and that's a tough thing to do, particularly with the stock up mentality that occurs when people panic right at the beginning of pretty, to overuse the unprecedented word, it was an unprecedented time for sure. But I think it was just a really great opportunity for the business who had already built this incredible digital foundation to actually just start to tell the story more and drive more of our customers to that. And it's been really great because those multimodality customers who shop in store or with pickup and delivery as well, we're finding it's a bit of a mix. So really it was just knowing our customers well enough and knowing what they were going to do to be able to serve them anytime that they needed food. And I think Kroger did a great job of stepping up and continues to do a great job of stepping up there. And like we said at the top of the discussion, that is all just accelerated so quickly. I mean, depending on who you ask, it's like we're sitting today where we expected to be a few years from today. So it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it really is. I think people's lives are made easier. There's more choices. You got to leave the house less. It's all good.
Yep.
So we talked about one-on-one communications and it being important. With 60 million customers at your hand, what does personalization at scale look like for you? Like, what do you hope for? What is it now, and what do you hope for it to be in the future?
Well, I think today, Kroger and with our partnership at 8451, and this is certainly me singing the praises of a lot of other people's hard work. It's just my job and my team's job in a lot of ways to try to tell the story well. But, the one-to-one communications, we've been doing better than most people for a really long time. Even when you go back to just some of the basics of like the Kroger Plus Rewards program, and starting even with direct mail, but we certainly are, in my opinion, the best at and certainly get credit with our customers for having personalized coupons, like absolute personalized coupon experiences, and that's just a great way to acknowledge and reward the shopping that your customers are doing with you. And so we really excel there, both in the more traditional print, but also in the digital space of being able to get personalized coupons through the app and being able to get on the app and have a few items that are known to you, and with the press of a button, they're tossed into your cart. So you can even make things like pickup and delivery, which are inherently more convenient, even faster, because we can, for me, the usual suspects are probably, I have a 4-year-old in the house, so there's always some kind of 2% chocolate milk and 2% milk situation, always lots of bananas in our house, lots of fresh fruit, and then a little bit of wine. And it's great that, and I can, with the press of a button, get started faster. So you can see how it expands into so many places and really does make it easier for people to shop. And I think we've been talking a lot about audience-based marketing and personalization at scale, and we have a new media partner as of this summer in Dentsu, and so really being able to flex that there. And I think you're going to start to see, the rubber's already met the road, but you're going to start to see us building on the momentum very quickly in the coming months. So a little bit of a more to come answer there for you, Brett.
All right, fair enough. We talked about wine. During COVID, I'm drinking more wine than I'd like to admit. And I will say that Kroger inspires or persuades me to buy more wine than I generally intend to buy when I go to the grocery store. Because if you buy less than 6, you're paying a whole heck of a lot more. So they do a fantastic job of ensuring that I'm walking out of there with at least 6 bottles of wine.
Well, we were just talking about, there's the new 6-bottle carrier packaging that is in our stores. It's just started to roll out, and the line on the bag is really cute. It's something like wine is really just fruit salad or something like that. So to make you feel a little bit better. But I can't take the credit for that push. It could be a personalization mechanism though, so we could just be serving up exactly what you wanted to see.
Right.
But I also would credit our adult bev category managers for that little win.
Nice.
In the Gentry household.
Yes, it is perpetual. So we talked a little bit about what other brands are doing right, and I think it's always fair to go outside of the vertical, but who's doing it right, whether it's within the grocery vertical or it's out? Because I think we can all get inspiration from other places, but who's doing something you want to be doing or that you want to steal from?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, it may feel like an obvious choice because they're just crushing it, particularly during the pandemic. But I really like what Peloton's been doing. I mean, and I think I'm a great example of this is a brand that has a lot of pretty hardcore users. I mean, if you think of the most functionally and emotionally loyal Peloton customer, like, has the water bottle, wears the hat, like all of that kind of stuff. They're really into it. But they managed to get somebody like me who maybe had been focused on other things for a while and wasn't regularly working out to jump on the wagon and, get a Peloton. And I think the reason that I like them as brand and as a company is, one, you have to start by having just a really, really strong product or service. And I do think that, they have a superior product, particularly in the spin bike. But two, they managed to create a community, and I think that's what's really served them well. They have a really great product, but then this really great community as you think about the motivation and the almost influencer status that their instructors have, but as well as just the experience in the app, or if you follow them on social media, or when you're within the product and working in their user interface. They managed to create sort of an outside of my stuck in my house working everyday experience at the perfect time when we all needed something that took us outside of what we were stuck in all the time. So for me, that's been kind of incredible. And you don't have to be pretending to ride your bike through Paris to experience that. Like, you can experience it even in a pre-recorded video with an instructor, and they happen to have an instructor for everyone, right?
Right. Yeah.
So there's something really cool about that. That also feels a little bit, I think democratized in some ways, just because it's you can see on the leaderboard like the people you're riding with, and some of them are just like you and some of them are nothing like you, and that's kind of cool, right? And now I'm getting into how they're starting to help better connect me with my friends who are on the platform, which is kind of fun because that sense of community and escapism from my, as you said, well curated study to the basement of my house here in Cincinnati where my bike sits, like, is kind of
Right.
cool. It's really special.
Yeah. So how do you take that? To me, the big takeaway there, amongst other things, it's the community that it creates. So
Yeah.
how do you create a community in a much bigger, much more diverse group of people that are coming from probably a much broader walk of life? How do you
Yeah,
create that community in that?
I think some of the similar parallels for us are, like, I think Chef Bot's a great example of that. Like, we really are trying to, regardless of what level you are at in your relationship with food and how you prepare it or how you cook it, like, we do believe everybody deserves to be able to do it well. And well could just mean adding a little bit of fresh to the mac and cheese that I'm going to give my 4-year-old here in an hour, like, to feel better about that. Or, it could be taking some risks in the kitchen and exploring. And we hope to be able to educate and inform and inspire, but also, make access to that super easy, whether
Sure.
it's, much better food at a really fair price, or just the ease in which you get it from us, right?
Right. All right. What are your predictions or outlook for the grocery category as we go into next year?
Oh my gosh, what a big question. Um, I think that I'll stick with what I've just been sort of focused on lately. I think the pandemic has, as I said before, whether you liked it or not, put a lot of people back in the kitchen, and it's long, and this has been months, right, to establish habits among people. I think we're going to see a lot of that stick, which I get really excited about, because I think over the long term, as you think of better food and cooking at home and that kind of thing, it's better for us. And I think it keeps us a little bit closer to the people we're sharing these houses with, even though the houses may all feel smaller right now because we're spending so much time in them. It's something to do. It's something to do with either your partner or your kids, or if you have a socially distanced pod that you've created since the pandemic. I see that kind of staying. I think people's relationship with food is changing for the better. And I hope that the category continues to serve that well, because I think it's really important just to the long-term health and well-being of people.
Yeah, I can agree. I have a 9.5-year-old and I have an 11-year-old, and my 11-year-old wants to cook all the time. She's constantly in the kitchen, and it's amazing. All
Well,
right,
have her
so
check out our Chef Bot, because she might have some fun with that.
I definitely will. Okay, so it's a Friday. It's holiday
Yes.
season. It's almost 5 o'clock where you are. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about these albums that you have behind you. I'm going to age myself a bit
Oh,
here by
right.
saying, and I was thinking about this after we talked yesterday. My first three albums that I bought on record, they may be the only out records I actually ever bought. Purple Rain, In Excess Kick, and Tears for Fears, whatever the name of that first album was.
Nice.
What were your first ones, and are they back there? And what are you listening to these days?
I had, embarrassingly enough, I had the soundtrack to An American Tail was technically my first one that wasn't like my parents or an older cousin, like that was my first actual LP.
Right.
And then I got some later that were definitely suitable kids things. I think I actually had some like Michael Jackson single. Pretty sure it was on a 45, but I moved pretty quickly to cassettes. And my relationship with vinyl was really being told not to touch the records in the living
Right.
room. And
Right.
even if one was technically mine, my dad, very, very meticulous guy, like had to come in and show me how to clean it and put the needle on the record. So it was about 10 years ago, I sort of like took back the power with music, and particularly in the analog types of music and vinyl. And I built up a bit of a collection, got a record player, moved on to getting a much nicer turntable and better speakers. And I guess the nice button on the end of that story is that the last time my parents were up here to visit, they actually drove because of the pandemic, and they didn't want to get on an airplane, and they showed up with a box of the rest of what was left of their collection that they hadn't already gotten rid of. So I was able to sort of early inherit some great stuff. I've got some just about everything by the Beatles, including some of the promotional stuff, like when they first came across
Right.
the pond. That was my dad's when he was a kid. Got the box tops from that same era, which are really great. But we've been spinning a lot of Bing Crosby White Christmas naturally, and I guess on separate ends of the spectrum, we have some Four Tops anthology vinyl, and then we have Dire Straits that have been running pretty crazy. And then I will say, this is real time. Last night, introduced the 4-year-old daughter to Uptown Girl.
Nice.
And it was really funny to see this kid just dancing like crazy to this, Billy Joel. He can't miss.
Right. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, and
Uh,
obviously I can talk too long and too much about it, Brett.
no,
It's fun. It's a fun kind of, the craft of
hey,
it is
these are
really
the
fun.
things that make the world go round. We talked yesterday about just, the normalization of people being in their personal habitat or
Yeah.
however you want to put it. And for me, I love it. It's long overdue. But with that said, I did have one question that I skipped over. It's something I read about that I wasn't aware of. It's the new Salad Works. It's in I would assume the flagship store in Cincinnati.
Right. Right.
Do you see that as more of a test, or are there plans for that being more of a wide? Can you talk a little bit about what it is, and then do you see that as being something that's going to have more widespread distribution as we go into the next years?
Well, that's to my knowledge in the beginning stages. I think it's something that was driven by the real estate team actually at Kroger, and they've done a really phenomenal job there. And it's even still pretty new to me, to be
Yeah,
totally honest. But I think it's another example of, it doesn't just have to be the ingredients that you take home and cook. Like, we have meal solutions that can help anybody any day of the week. I mean, there is literally a 4 p.m. dilemma of what am I going to have for dinner tonight? That is a very real insight among
it's re-
people. And I think SaladWorks is another great example of, like, even if you need something quick right now, or you need your kind of big stock up delivery of groceries tomorrow. Like we have kind of all of those solutions from very quick to more planned out and everything in between. So, if you're thinking about food, think of Kroger.
Well, it
That's,
makes
I
sense
think,
to
what they're
me.
looking for.
If you're taking the time to go grocery shopping, maybe you missed out on going to lunch or whatever, so you want a salad to
Yeah,
maybe eat in the car on the way home, So that
absolutely.
makes a lot of
Yep.
sense. So I think we only have a few more minutes, and I see there's at least one group question here, so I'm going to ask that.
Oh, great.
And then, so Kroger, this is from Lauren. Kroger assembled an amazing allyship resource guide this year. Are there plans to continue the discussion about allyship as a component of brand building?
Absolutely. I mean, I can tell you at the enterprise level, the not just the allyship, but the DE&I initiatives. What we really did was, I think, like many retailers, when Black Lives Matter and some of the social unrest around it first started at the beginning of the summer, we came forward and had some initial plans, earmarked some funding to go after it. But what I really appreciate about how the Kroger Co. is approaching it is that, we wanted to do it in the right way. And so we did a lot of internal, I think like fireside chats with senior leaders and opened up a forum so people could come forward and tell their stories and really ask questions and talk about what change could look like. And we're doing it in the right way. And now, there's an executive sponsor DE&I initiative that I'm really excited about. They're building an advisory council around it literally right now. And I think on the brand building side of things, what you'll see is, we talk about fresh for everyone in sort of our core grocery campaign, and we really try to live that truth. I think we are very focused on, no matter who you are or where you're from, everyone deserves access to really affordable food. But I think in the actual tactical, like marketing communications, we are trying to make sure that we represent our entire customer base in our marketing communications. And I like our animated device on that end because you can see yourself in these animated characters. They really were supposed to be representative of the everyone, including our associates. And I think our social media team does a really nice job of also just making sure that beyond the inclusivity piece in our advertising, making a concerted effort to hire creators of color and work with production companies that are Black owned, and anything that we can do to continue to tell those stories, whether it's through a piece of advertising or by highlighting these fantastic human interest stories that happen within our stores and with our associates and customers. So we aren't perfect, but we are doing everything that we can to get ourselves in a better place as a brand there. So I appreciate the question, and it's one that we should never stop working on. I just think that this year put a bigger spotlight on it, and I'm glad that it did.
It's amazing. To me, there's so much more to what's going on at
Yeah.
Kroger than I think most average consumers can think about. But it's great. Emily, the other Emily, I'm not sure if you're going to beat me off here, but I have one more quick question.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, confusing with the two Emily. So
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
we'll decide which Emily takes it. We haven't
right.
decided yet.
So Emily Hartmann, would you be willing to share what stores you go outside of Kroger that maybe have that special wine that you need? Maybe it's a special butcher. When are you steering away from the mothership?
Oh goodness. It's probably when I need something really, really, really specific, but I won't put it past Kroger to not have this as part of our assortment in the next year. But I think there is a sort of hometown butcher that's about as big as this room that I'm sitting in down the street, that here, even in Cincinnati, Ohio, happens to have very fresh raw oysters on the half shell that I can buy a dozen of and bring home, which is kind of cool. But then everything else around that part of the plate is absolutely from Kroger because we have the best fresh. So why would I go anywhere else?
Nice. Company line all the way. That's great.
You got to advocate for the brand. I really do believe in it. If I didn't, I wouldn't be in this job.
No, I totally get it. I could ask you 100 more questions along that same line. I really could, because who couldn't? this is like so core to our existence, right? And how we do it. So I think Emily's going to boot me here, but thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'd love to dig into those albums more. Maybe we could do that in another time, but I really enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Same. Likewise. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you both so much for joining us. What a great note to end on, and love hearing the brand loyalty that you have. It's very inspiring. So.